Okay, let's see if we can get this in one take. I'm about to gut my whole system because I've made some less than optimal decisions. Shouldn't take me too long, but I figured I'll try at least one of these longer form videos. And in this one, let's rebuild this maize plant as a way to quickly show off roughly what the system does. So I'm going to go to a single plant in the middle. What we're going to do is we're going to rebuild the flower and rebuild the plant, but I won't rebuild the two leaves in question simply to save some time. So let's start with a new stem, and we obviously have to do the flower first. I'll explain in a sec. So we go new stem. It clearly has kept some information, and we go age 5, age power. In fact, I'm going to leave all of this. Let's start with adding a stem material. So we're in crops. Do I have a stem material here? Yes, I do. We add a stem material, and there you can see it. It looks kind of dismal right now. There's a lot of things wrong with it, but you can see it's weird and twisty. But if I drag that along, things happen. We'll get onto that in a second. It's also very black. Next thing we're going to do with this is to add some leaves to it. And we are going to use the wheat head. I don't have a specific one for maize. If you take wheat and you just narrow it significantly, it's a decent approximation for now. As said, I'm not going to be rebuilding these. We'll edit some in a moment, and I'll show some of that effect running. Let's straighten up the stem first. Clearly the curvature is a little bit silly. Even the randomness in the curvature is a little bit silly. I'll get to phototropism in a second, and let's get the node twist. In fact, let's get all of those down to 0, except for node bend. So what you have is a system that grows these in a series of little steps, and which is age. So age is actually the number of nodes that have grown. It doesn't correlate to the time of a number of days or number of years. And in node bend, we can just add randomness between those. And we do want some degree of randomness, but we also want this to be pretty straight, so we can increase randomness and phototropism at the same point in time, straighten this all out. Quite a bit too long. Age of 9 is a bit heavy for something like this. 4, maybe 5 is probably a better number. Age power. I need to let me just. What was it? Numpix. I need to get this number bigger, just so that's a detailed scale that I can use. So age power simply scales this. Oh, I do have a clue where my lighting problems are coming from. That's interesting. We'll fix that in a moment. I understand why we are in shade. Age power just tells you how much this twig scales up and down along its length. It does seem to be a little bit narrow at 5 millimeters and 50, so it's 5 centimeters. That's actually pretty long. I'm gonna go 30 is probably more like it, but they are pretty thick, so let's go to about 8 millimeters and we scale it down a little bit. The leaves seem very long. So here's our whole plant, and you can see that it's currently not set. So let's save this. We go save as, and I'm gonna go new maize flower, just to clearly distinguish it from the previous one. It's set. If we go on to click onto the leaf, you get all of the editing for the leaf, and these leaves are pretty long, so let's just get them a bit more in scale, get their width little bit closer, and let's go about 12. That looks about fine. And I'll come back to the rest. We'll come and edit that once we have sunlight on this, etc. But the first thing I want to show is that you have leaves at the nodes, and then you have a unique tip leaf. I do think for this we can simply stop that. No, we can't. I know why. Okay, so we're going to end up adding the exact same leaf at the tip. And I don't know why this didn't rebuild. Let's just scale something there. That is interesting. So that is humongous. It's definitely not what we're after. Let's just see. It's probably leaf age power. It still isn't. Now why would the tip... Anyway, we have a separate... You can now see that we have... These are the normal ones. That is the tip one. Oh, yes. I know exactly what's happened. So we modified all of this. We forgot to save. Let's go back here and just add this tip back in. And just do anything to make this update. Okay. All of them scaled correctly. The first thing I want to do is they spread outwards significantly, and that is simply not the way that any of these maize flowers look like. So we can go to the angle factor, and we've got two sets here. The one just sets the angle at which they exit, and we do want that pretty narrow and upwards. And the second one sets the angle spread with age, so it makes the bottom ones spread out more and the top ones followed a bit more closely. That looks okay for now. The second one is to go back to this leaf and just play with the curvature a little. I want to try and avoid this. I want them all to go upwards a little bit more. So we have two options. We can play with the curvature. Oh, sorry, that is the stem curvature, and I actually want to go... oh, it's because I clicked on the wrong thing. We can go to the curvature and change that and bend them upwards. Or we can go to phototropism. Where is that? Oh, I don't have that for leaves. So we have curvature only... let's play with the noise and that a little bit. Okay, I'm going to leave that for the second. Let's figure out the lighting first. So to get to the lighting, I do have to set up some LODs first, because we can't light unless we can calculate accurate extents, and for that we need LODs. Now I know that 6 levels of detail for something as simple as this is overdoing it. So we've got to go to the number of levels of detail, and I'm thinking 4 will do it. And the reason I need to set this up first, let's just save this, is I need to build this last level of detail. Building the very last one at full detail gives me extent, so you can now see that this is 27 meters tall. This is 27 meters tall, 13 centimeters wide. It's rather big, but let's leave it at that. You've got a bit of maize flower here. It's still quite in shade, and this is controlled by our depth settings over here. So because it's a very sparse thing, and sunlight will really penetrate this volume. This is volumetric lighting that I have here. It's not actual per pixel lighting. We do have to increase that, and we can keep the height very, very low. So this is great for a sparse thing. Looks like sunlight is penetrating it nicely, etc. I quite like this. The things to look at now quickly is that we need the stem we used here. I currently have exactly one material, and this is not a problem at all. The stem we used is very green, and I would still go maybe a little bit to too narrow. So let's go to 12 millimeters. Seems a bit much. Let's go back down to 10 and get to that stem material. So we go here into our material cache, and we go and find the stem, and there it goes, stem green. Let's just pull this down nicely. So we've got cache with all of the materials that we have loaded. We've got all of the textures. You can see currently 25 and it's 0.7 megabytes. A very quick texture inspector. If you want to know what's inside of each texture, very quick and easy. It also works over here. So in stem green, you can see that there's the albedo, there's the normal map, and we've got some options. But let's go to the albedo color, and in fact, it's probably easier like this. We can just slide the amount of green down. You can see it's getting a little bit dark, so we increase the amount of blue and we increase the amount of red, but too much red. Even less green, even more blue. Slightly more. Anyway, thereabout. It's not a perfect system, but if you consider the color that we started off with, and you just need some degree of variation, very quick and easy to make this. And let's be honest, we're going to see this at this sort of distance usually, and I'm going to go at that point, it is fine. Now, to set up our levels of detail for this plant, we've gone for 4, and there are a couple of variations here. So 0, 1, and 2 have very specific meaning. That is why I picked 4. So we have 1 that's still outside of that. And what you have here is you have bake settings at that little button over there. So all of those have bake settings. And this is the number of pixels for each of those LODs, 32, 64, 128. I think that's fine for this. We'll discuss that in a different video. And then you have bake width. So it tells you how much of this to bake into the billboard. So obviously for lot 0, we're baking 100% of it at very low resolution. At lot 1, we're baking only the core. At lot 2, we're only baking the inner 20%. So this gives you that sense of volume and depth in the middle, but allows us to really simplify the leaves and keep the volume feeling. So the very first thing we have to do is make sure this is fine, and I think that is pretty much okay, and actually bake these textures, because we cannot build the LODs without textures. So I'm going to click on Bake Textures. That's going to run for about a second. You see that we suddenly get 3 new materials that appeared over here. So the system automatically created a new folder. It saved these materials for us. So if I go to lot 0 up there, you will see that there's the albedo, translucency map, normal map, all baked out, 32 pixels tall. Lot 1, the same thing, but you can sort of see that it's now narrower. In fact, if we go to lot 2, which is only the 20% inner core, you can clearly see all of the green in the middle, the brownish leaves on the sides, etc. So those bakes are done. And if you now click on here on lot 0 and build that, you will see that billboard. Now at this point you need to sort of decide what the place spot is where it's going to be used. Now I do think the switch sits over here, and 32 pixels is more than enough. But there are some times when you need a plant to switch at this sort of level, and you really need this to be, let's just go 128 for the moment and click Bake Textures. It will take us a minute. And it crashed. I will be back. That is really interesting. I wonder what was open. Let's just go again. So, very interesting. I will debug that after the session. Let's restart with this. Oh, I do have a clue what's happened there. But now if I go to build lot 0, you can see that it's significantly higher quality. And just to avoid another crash, I'll go and fix that bug after this. I've made a note. Let's stick to it like that. So lot 0 is a very special one. It's just a billboard. Lot 1 is also interesting. So it uses a smaller core in the middle, and then it tries to add a couple of leaves to that. So clearly at this point, this is my pixel size for that shift, and this is where the artistic side comes in. Now I've got to play with this. Okay, there we go. So we have mostly a billboard with a little bit of 3D, and this is just to hide that significant pop when we go over. It definitely has to be performant. We have to be in a single block. And where is that? Yes, so we are currently using a single block, but we've got 5 unused vertices. I'll explain that in a different video. So we can likely push that up a little bit more. Yes, so we're still using only a single block, 1 unused vertex. That is about perfect. Then lot 2, if we hop over to that, you will notice that it has even less of a core, and now we can use significantly more. So let's try at about 113 or so. What does that give us? 3 blocks, so that's 96 vertices used. So now you can see that it has even less of this inner core. We've probably overdone this. Let's try and get this down to 2 blocks purely for performance reasons. So I'm going to slide that down a little bit lower. Click, build on that. We're still on 96, still not down far enough. Click, build on that. Almost there, just not far enough. Click, build on that. And there we are, 64 verts, 2 blocks. 2 blocks used, and this will typically be used somewhere in this sort of a region, this sort of size. So you start there from a billboard. Let's do it up against the light. You start from a billboard that will flip around roughly there. That lot will take us to almost there. This one will take us all the way to here, and which just brings us to the last one. So when you're really close, you do want, let's go at least to about 200 or so. So now you're using 192 verts for this, and that looks about right. So I will click build all lots in a second, explain that when we get there, but I think the next thing just to touch on is the wind and animation. So let's turn on animation here. And you will see that this is looking a little bit odd. So there's a lot of artistic controls. I decided that was significantly better than not having artistic controls. And let's start with the main swaying of it. So we've got 3 sets of controls over here for animation. You've got stiffness. And one is pretty much, I do allow it to go slightly below for special cases, but it really goes from 1 upwards, and that tells us how stiff it is. And if you make it really stiff, the wind just is unable to bend this at all. But you can also see that the frequency increases. So the frequency over here, currently it's oscillating at 1 hertz. That gets recalculated. So the more stiff it becomes. So the actual calculation of the frequency is that's fully physics capable, but the artist has control over both stiffness, and we want a fair bit of flex in this. And then the square root of sway. So I use the square root because it gives you cleaner numbers to work with, and this tells you how what the oscillating frequency is. So we can make it go really slowly. We can make it go stupidly fast. And this, I really think, is down to artistic feel. It looks about good to me. Let's put it over there. And the last bit of control I have is this root to tip. And this just control where this bend is. So I can slide this all the way to 0, and you can see it now bends just at the root, and the whole thing remains straight. There's no curvature in this. Just saying, we are currently on the stem, so we're only editing the stem. We'll get to the flowers in a second. So I can slide it down all the way here to 0, and so all of the bend happens right at the start. And this is great for flowers with tiny little stems where the bend happens in the stem. I can add around 1. Let's slide this up a little. You can see that there's a lot more curvature in this bend. And this is about a circular curvature. But then you can slide it up to about 2, we're about 1.6. And now you can see that the root is standing very still. This is something that gets more and more loose towards the top, and it bends more towards the top. That's just not the way wheat flowers work. In fact, I'm going to go 0.6, 0.7, about right, and let's save that. And then the last thing is simply to open up the flower itself, and you will find the exact same set of information. So currently they are set to being very stiff, but let's drop them down, and now they really swing in the wind. So that's interesting. I'm not being accurate here. That there is a speed component to what I'm doing, but they are swaying for tiny little elements, maybe a little bit more stiff, but they are swaying quite slowly. So let's just increase their frequency, drop their stiffness a little. That looks a little bit odd. No, let's keep them a little bit more stiff, and let's see if we go really fast. Looks a little bit odd. Anyway, this is one of the systems that is about to be overwritten, and let's pull them closer to their... No, that actually doesn't look that good either. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this. Say, just go, I think that's pretty okay, it's pretty interesting. And the very last step that I have remaining here is the build all LODs. And what this does, let's just hop back to, so you can see here that a lot of the things we set up have a value and then a random value on the side. So the age has a random of 22%. The length has random scales, width is random scales. A lot of 0 right now. I'll delve into the detail of that. What build all LODs does is it's currently set up to build 4, but it will randomly build 4 variations of this plant. So let's click on that, and there you have it. So now you have, let's see if we can, so this isn't very clear. They are all pretty similar. Let's just increase my lotting bias to 1. I'm also casting a shadow right down the middle just so that I have a very easy way to quickly verify colors if I'm wondering if my colors and everything is alright. So I do have a shadow section purely as a test. That's not so clear, so let's go and increase this randomness over here in the age. I just want to show clearly that we actually have different meshes over here. So you have, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's hard to, it's actually slightly, this is such a similar plant. Hang on, I do know what I should do. So I should just disable the wind. This will give us a much clearer view. And there you have it. So now you have 4 of these. It's all saved. In fact, yeah, it's all saved. And I think at this stage, I'm going to stop this video, upload it, and I will do a completely different video where we do the same thing for a whole plant. And in the same way that we added that unique tip at the top here, you can now add this whole plant that we have saved as a subpart of another plant. In fact, let's quickly do that. I'm just going to load this my original maize plant. So if we do this and you look at my original plant, and you can see that I've got a unique tip and it has maize flower stems. So this is not the new one we built, but this is my original one. But you can add a complete plant as a subpart. The same here for the leaves. Currently I have a leaf attached at each node, but you can simply go and build complete branches, save them with lodding, each branch with its own billboard, so that when we lot this out at the correct distance, it starts using billboards for the sub branches, etc. Because let's be honest, the real genius of this system is this automatic lodding system. When I click build all lods, I'm going to build 6 LODs of this plant and 4 versions of the plant, all in a matter of seconds. I mean, let's click that and just see how long it takes to build it all. There, done. Oh, this specific one looks a bit nicer if we plant them in rows, since it's a crop. I do have a couple of variations for randomness. So there we have it. I think that's as much as I'm going to do for this video. If you've made it to here, not sure if I should say congratulations or get a life. But if it's interesting and you'd love to see more content like this, please drop a note. And if you have comments on anything you'd like to see, I would also love that. Thanks. Cheers.